What is going on, everyone? Yes, that's right. You're hearing this correctly. This is Drew Code Sports Talk, and I am your host, Andrew Wright. And over in his living room is my co-host, Cody Johnson. Cody.
What is going on, everyone? It's been a long 3 weeks. Welcome back to the show. We have a jam-packed show. Everything from Formula One, NBA, MLB opening days on Thursday. Drew, I know you're super excited for that.
Yes.
And funny thing is, we even have some Wrestlemania questions in here. So never thought we'd see that again. And so, anyways, before we kick it off, please, everyone, don't forget to join our social media sites. TikTok being one of them for now until they ban it. So follow us there at True Code Sports Talk, and then also to the, subscribe to us on YouTube and on the podcast, and don't forget all the other sites. So before we get started, Drew, man, what's going on? It's been a minute. How are you?
Yeah, it's going all right. Been doing a lot of work at the house. A lot of work at the house. And so finally, my wife said, I'm exhausted. I know you're exhausted. So let's take the day off today. So I said, okay. And so what did I decide to do? I said, hey, Cody, why don't we just record Drew Code? So I don't know if I'm crazy or what, but I have been so tired the last 2 days. I'm supposed to go to the gym tomorrow. I have no idea if I'm actually going to get up and do it, but hopefully I will, because I still need it. So anyway, but the house is coming along real well. We finished our room. I mean, done. No other things. I mean, other than like minor things that we're going to do, but that's all stuff that we're going to end up doing like later. So we're not too worried about it. And then we have to like put a mirror in our bathroom, but that's about it. And then everything else, we painted a lot of the walls. We're actually onto the kitchen now. We painted my son and daughter's room, and now we just have to like paint the trim and the doors. So everything's coming along. It's going really well. Right now we have some guy, not exactly right now, but right now there's a guy who's fixing the main bathroom tub. So that's going to be going on for the next few days. So I mean, it's beginning to look livable. That's what I can say about it. So we're really excited about it. We're getting really stoked. And actually, my wife and I, just before we came on here, we're trying to look at rings or the Amazon, what is it, Bing, or I don't know what they call it. Anyway, Blink, that's the one. Yeah. So we're looking at those as well. So we're trying to decide what we're going to go with. But anyway, that's all what we're doing. It's really encouraging because I think we're way closer than we had possibly anticipated about moving in. So probably not next week, but I think there is a high, I would say about a 50-50 shot that we could get it in about 2 weeks. So
nice.
Yeah.
For those, for the listeners, I actually did some slave labor for you last weekend. And I tried to get as much done as possible. I think it was only there for a few hours, though. But tried to do as much as I could. And then I took the girls out for lunch. So that way, hopefully, I gave you guys a little bit of, well, I wouldn't say peace and quiet, but at least hopefully you guys were able to get some more work done. But it was a good time. I mean, I didn't mind it. I enjoyed it. And we got to watch the Jeddah race while we were spackling together, which thought was real fun. Yeah. And getting to chit chat and stuff about the races, and then getting actually to see the house, because I know obviously no one here has ever seen the house, but it's needs a lot of TLC. But I mean, honestly, I was telling my wife about it. It's like the perfect house for you guys, because it's essentially what you guys did have at your first place, but just with an extra bedroom and just a little bit more space here and there, which is almost perfect for what you guys needed. And honestly, too, just the story behind it is really cool, and I'm excited for you guys. And it's you've been giving me the homeowner stuff recently, so it's been cool to see the house come to living standards. And I know eventually I'll get the text the week of, like, hey, looking to move in, you got a truck I can borrow? So.
Yeah, it'll be coming soon, hopefully. We're starting to think about starting to maybe move some stuff. We're not going to be able to move a lot because we still have to like clean the floors, because painting and all that jazz and moving and fixing a bunch of stuff. But, it is getting a lot closer to doing that. So it is exciting. Definitely ready to open this chapter of life and, experience this house. I mean, it sounds like this house is going to be our house for a while at least. So, which is exciting. And that's why we're doing so much more work than just moving in and then just trying to do it a little bit here, a little bit there. I mean, we're trying to establish ourselves right then and there and get on with it. And we had to kind of make it livable, which I think at the time we bought it was not. So
it was rough. I mean, I remember you sending me the pictures, and then I believe when we had to drop off your fridge, I saw it in person, and it was like, oh wow, okay, there's a lot of work that needs to get done. But honestly, from just hearing what's been going on the last, I think like 3 weeks, maybe 3.5 weeks, it's gone super fast.
Yeah.
So all things considered.
It's been good. So, and all things considered too, most of the time we're only working during the weekend. We're not even really going there during the week. So, it's been rough. I mean, we're drained by the end of it, but it will definitely be worth it. And, I think I'm going to work a little bit harder at keeping the house clean and whatnot and keeping the upkeep on it, knowing that, what me and my wife have went through the last month of trying to get this going. So, all right. Well, Cody, you kind of brought it up a little bit, and let's talk about Formula One, man. As I'm wearing my Mercedes-Benz hat, because I will ride or die with Mercedes, even though it's been a struggle this year so far.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned, Jeddah was a few weeks back. Well, it was about a couple of weeks now.
About 2 weeks.
So Jeddah happened, and it was some big turmoil going into race day. So qualifier, we had already known that Charles Leclerc was going to. He had a 10 spot penalty on him, and so we knew that if he gets first place, he's starting 11th. So if he's 11th or lower, he's going to be back of the grid. So that was going to be huge. And so during that, he was actually running really well. And it was actually impressive because he got P2. So obviously he ended up going to 12th, which was actually very impressive. And then he ended up 7th place at the end of the race. So really good sign for Ferrari. But the bigger story was, one of the bigger stories was Max Verstappen. So in Q1, he was running fine, and he was actually almost P1, I believe, going into. Actually, I can check that right now. But in Q2, during that point, he was actually struggling to. Let's see, 128. Yeah, he was running first at Q1. So then going into Q2, it looked like he was going to be first place, probably by far. And he ended up pulling off to the side, and they said, hey, we're going to have to retire the car. It's not going to work. And I don't know about you, but as a Mercedes fan, I was ecstatic. I was so happy. I was like, yes, thank God Verstappen is going to be out, and he's going to struggle. And I think at that when the news first hit that he was going to be out and he was going to start 15th, I think everyone was like, oh, this is going to be great. Now we're going to kind of see the struggles that Red Bull is going to have when they got the money when they overpaid last year. Now they kind of have to figure out, oh, okay, this is our limitations because we weren't able to afford all this. So in the moment, I was like, okay. But after the race, because Max Verstappen ended up getting second, it was like Red Bull was screwing with everyone. Like, listen, we can literally start almost in the back of the grid, and we can still come in 1-2. Like, that's how impressive our car is. And Max Verstappen is the guy to do it. So it was kind of a slap in the face towards the end because Verstappen at one point was really pushing towards Checo.
Yeah.
And it ended up not happening, and Checo ended up winning by 5.3 seconds. Well, I'm rounding up, but 5.3 seconds. So, which is good. I mean, good for Checo. He definitely deserved it. It was a huge weekend for Mexico of that week, by the way.
Yeah.
I mean, Mexico advanced to the semifinals to face the USA, and then Checo got pole position in qualifier, and then ended up winning the very next day, which was really cool. So, huge shout out to Mexico there. They had a huge weekend. And I was really, really pleased to see Checo win. And I don't think it could have happened to a better guy. I just feel like, especially with all the drama that happened last year, this was well deserved. I know a lot of people were talking about Verstappen and the calls that he was trying to push to pass Checo, and then they were talking to Checo, and he was like, and it sounded like he was hesitant with the engineers and with the principal and all that. Listen, I don't really take it as he was hesitant towards them. I think he's hesitant, like he doesn't trust Verstappen, and I think that's very valid. I think I that's what I took from it. I know a lot of people are like, no, he definitely just doesn't trust Red Bull as a team, and I was like, no, I think he trusts them because he chose to stay and he chose to sign an extension. I think what it is he doesn't trust Verstappen, and I think that's overall what happened, and it ended up not mattering because he ended up winning. So good for Checo, good for Red Bull. Kind of sucks as a Mercedes fan, but what can you do? You gotta roll with it, and it looks like Red Bull is gonna run away with this season as well.
Yeah, I mean, when we were watching the race, I think it was great for Checo to be out in front, and he held position all race. I think a couple of telling things is Fernando Alonso had an interesting day. He podiums and then had a penalty on the pit, which then got him in fourth place. Yeah. And then they took it back because, Aston Martin basically appealed it and showed a bunch of different occasions where teams in the pit had done the same exact violation on the same, 5-second penalty or 5-second pit penalty. And they were let off without any sort of repercussion from that. So then they re-gave Fernando Alonso his P3, which, by the way, Fernando Alonso looked really, really good. He's still running that Aston Martin really well. Shout out to Aston Martin, who actually had both driver. Actually, no, unfortunately, Lance Stroll didn't finish, or else they would have had more points in the constructor. But Mercedes placed a little bit better, P4 and 5 for both their drivers, and Ferrari finally had 2 cars that finished in this race, which was great. Charles Leclerc had actually a pretty good day. I mean, as you said, started off at P12, and then he got all the way up to 7th. I think at one point he was up to 5th, but I think a late pit kind of lost him some position with the Mercedes drivers. And then Carlos Sainz didn't really do too much, P6. Alpine finally came out and had a pretty good day. They had 2 drivers, both finished.
Yeah, that was good. Good for them.
Williams unfortunately had Albon. I think he crashed in like the 20th lap or something like that, so he was out.
Albon,
excuse me. And then McLaren, though, terrible day. I think it's the same story with McLaren. They just did not run great at all. Yeah. And then what's funny is I sent you this podcast that I've been wanting you to listen to, and I have no idea if you listened to a minute of it, but they were talking about where it was. Who was it? Lando Norris it's a meme where Lando Norris is asking for Daniel Ricciardo's attorney to get him out of his current deal because he can't do this no more, because he can't keep pushing this crap bucket around and barely, fighting for 17th place basically. So I think Jeddah was really interesting, as what you said, Verstappen starting at P15, finishing all the way to 2nd. I agree though. I don't think Checo trusts Verstappen. And, he may trust Red Bull, but I don't think he trusts them that much, just because, Red Bull was still trying to get Checo to kind of slow down a little bit to get pace. And Checo wouldn't do it. He kept his position and kept going, which I think is the right thing to do, because Verstappen didn't do the same thing for him last year. So I think it was an entertaining race. But after, I'd say, lap 40, it was pretty much the same position throughout. Not a whole lot of movement. Mercedes, I'm still questioning what are they going to do to improve because, Red Bull is just so much faster than them. And I would think if Aston Martin can finish with both cars, the question is now, is Aston Martin also faster than Mercedes? I think that's a pretty serious question that probably needs to be answered sometime this season. And maybe we'll see it in Austria, but, Mercedes just doesn't look as dominant I was hoping for as the season goes on. Granted, like we're going into race 3 this weekend.
Yeah.
But still, though, they just don't look as dominant. Hamilton just, I don't know, this car just doesn't look nearly as fast. I think that they still haven't really figured out their issues from last season. Yeah. And if they're really hoping to fix it by summer break to come back, I think it'd be too late. I wouldn't be surprised if Red Bull has a chokehold on the lead and really nobody can challenge them outside of Aston Martin. But then you got to rely on 2 cars finishing every day. And can you rely on Stroll to finish in the top 10? I think that's a question as well. So
I think Stroll can land in top 10, but I don't think he's going to be consistent with it. I do think he is a little more reckless than they want him to be.
Yeah.
But listen, his dad owns the team, so it's a little bit easier for him to kind of just go out there and kind of push it a little bit more, which is fine. I'm not saying that that's bad because sometimes he is getting results. I mean, we saw race 1 in Bahrain, where he had a really good race and he was hurting. So, I think Aston Martin is here to stay, at least for this year. We're talking about Mercedes is, they're a little issue. They could end up 3rd because right now Ferrari, for some reason, there's something going on. Like, there's no reason, in my opinion, that Ferrari should have came 6 and 7 and Mercedes should have been 4 and 5. Yeah. So that I'm a little more concerned about Ferrari than I had thought. I had really anticipated that, Ferrari was going to be probably number 2. A lot of people were talking about Aston Martin, so I thought Mercedes and Aston Martin were going to be fighting for 3rd, but it looks like it's Mercedes and Ferrari fighting for 3rd right now, which is very, very insane. So we'll see. I mean, I know the results are actually a little different than that. I know that I'm pretty sure, Mercedes and Aston Martin, they're both tied for 2nd right now, but really it's because Stroll didn't finish and Mercedes had both of their drivers go 4 and 5. So that's going to help in points. But still, they had one driver not finish for Aston Martin, and they're tied for 2nd. So that's how impressive Aston Martin has been so far this year. So we'll see what happens. But, there's going to be a lot more races. And actually, this one that's coming up is Australia. So the Australian Grand Prix is this weekend. Cody, who is going to get first in Australia?
Well, I think it's a Red Bull car. I got to be honest. I don't know. What? I mean, it could be Checo. It can be Verstappen. I think in qualifying, literally one of them has to not be in the race for it to even be a challenge. Yeah. But I mean, it's Verstappen. Now, if you're going to ask me, like, who's the driver besides Red Bull that has a good shot at winning Australia, I would say Fernando Alonso. I think he's tapped into this car so well that he's getting everything he can out of it. He's getting on podium 2 races in a row. And I think I do think that Aston Martin is actually flat out faster than Mercedes and Ferrari. I think that their car is just way better constructed. And it helps too that you have a legend in Fernando Alonso that's behind the wheel, able to push this car and it produced results. So I think Red Bull, a driver from Red Bull will finish P1. That's the hot take here. I think the second hot take, though, is I think Fernando Alonso would probably be the best driver to get the to win the podium for Australia. I don't know if Mercedes has what it can, they'd have to literally qualify P1 and 2 to just even get some position. But knowing how fast their car is, if they even got P1 or P2, they're probably going to finish P3 and 4, maybe 4 and 5, depending on Aston Martin. So that's what I would say. I'd say Fernando Alonso is probably the one to get it. And that's pretty much it. And that's how much of a discrepancy I think it is between these 4 cars, between Red Bull, Ferrari, Mercedes, and Aston Martin. It's pretty much Red Bull, a slight break, Aston Martin, a larger break, Ferrari, and Mercedes. That's what it's looking like. And I think we're going to see that in Australia as well.
I'm going to throw a little curveball here because even though I just kind of bashed him, I don't want to say bashed him, but I'm a little more concerned than I had led on. But I do actually really feel this, and I do believe this. So it's not that I'm just throwing this out there to be like, oh, well, maybe. No, I actually do believe this. I think, first of all, Verstappen's going to win this. Mm-hmm. Barring some sort of mechanical issue, I don't see Verstappen losing this season as long as his car is working. Maybe later on in the year, when the regulations that they had on their spending this year would really start to show. I mean, then maybe we'll see how the car's running, but this car is running really well right now. I don't imagine it getting any slower. I don't imagine them tweaking anything. So I think
all those extra sandwiches are paying off, man.
Yeah. Good for Verstappen, man. He should be a Subway spokesman.
Filet mignon for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, man. Are you kidding?
I know, like Red Bull, why are you not working with Subway right now and just having like a Red Bull drink for Subway? Come on. Anyway, so I think Verstappen is going to win this. I actually do think that Charles Leclerc is going to get second place. And here's why. I was really impressed with the qualifier that he had in Jeddah, but I also thought he had a really good race. For the Ferrari, it's not the best car, but I think Leclerc is that talented where like Sainz is struggling. And Leclerc was they had a couple of times where they had some really good pits and it wasn't really an issue, but it just felt like Sainz and Leclerc were kind of the car wasn't running as evenly as they would wanted it to, so they just ended up keeping Sainz ahead of him. And plus, you can make the argument Sainz really is right now the breadwinner because he has the most points out of the two. So to get him more points, he can climb up there. But I really feel that Leclerc is going to end up getting second place. I just feel like his talent is fantastic. I think this Australian Grand Prix really fits to what he is really capable of doing. Again, it's going to rely on Ferrari. Barring some issues with a car, which is very highly likely apparently this year. I also do feel like I just think Leclerc is now a man on the mission. Everyone's talking about Aston Martin and how good they are, and that Fernando Alonso could possibly get third, maybe even second if they really are getting better and better. And so I think Charles Leclerc you're going to see is going to be flying under the radar. So I think he's going to get second. And I would actually probably put Sergio Perez in third. I think that Red Bull is running well. I just don't think he can stop Charles. So
yeah. Do you think that McLaren's going to get any points this weekend?
No, I do not. You know what? I will say this because we didn't mention it. I'm blanking on his name. Good God, Kevin Magnussen. He ended up getting 10th place, so he got a point for Haas, which I was really happy with. I always kind of watch Haas because they're the American team, so I always kind of root for them a little bit. But I think Haas they've had really good qualifiers, and the races have been actually good. I just feel like Nico Hülkenberg towards the end of races is for some reason struggling. So I don't know if it's the car. I don't know if it's him, but Kevin Magnussen ended up being in the top 10. So I do feel like I think Haas is going to have a pretty good day. I would say maybe maybe Magnussen might get lucky and get to 7th. I think that is reasonable. But I wouldn't be surprised if they're in the top 10, at least one of them, or if both of them. So.
I want to just say, like, Alpine did really good at the Jeddah race, and they had 2 drivers that finished within the top 10. And I think that I think Alpine is actually like one of those constructors that can, is probably like an underrated one in the midfield. I mean, I'd like to think that they're up there with Haas. I mean, I don't think they're at the top echelon, but I think right in the middle, like I think they can be a 5th for sure. Like if they just keep the drivers like just finishing races. I really think that Haas, my only issue with them is sometimes their drivers like Magnussen is a little reckless, and sometimes you run the risk that he just kind of gets out of control. Pierre Gasly, I think, just still needs to prove if he is the driver of the future, which is, what Alpine has put all their chips behind. And especially Esteban Ocon, if he can just be safe and take his chances when it's the right opportunity and not be overzealous. And also, too, if engineering wise, if that car can just stay in one piece and not fall apart on the straightaways, then it would be great. But I do think that Alpine does deserve a little bit of flowers, considering at Bahrain they didn't do so hot. They had one finish. They had one did not finish. But I think now they had a pretty good bounce back weekend. And I'm curious to see what they do in Australia. I think this is going to be an interesting weekend to see what their future is for the rest of the season, if they're really that team that could really be at the top end of the midfield, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. All right, Cody. Well, that's enough F1. Oh, you know what? Let's say one more thing about F1. Andrew is winning in fantasy Formula One right now with a whopping total fantasy points, 164. If you don't remember or you don't know, I have Charles Leclerc, George Russell, Red Bull, and Mike Crack, the team principal of Aston Martin, who Andrew picked phenomenally. All right.
So the key wasn't drivers. The key was the key was the team principals. That was it all along.
Yes, it was. And so far, my guy is getting a lot of points. So, and Cody is actually in 3rd place right now. He's got Verstappen, Hamilton, Ferrari, and Otmar. And he's in 3rd with 102 fantasy points. And then my wife, gorgeous wife, she's got Checo, she's got Carlos Sainz, Mercedes, and Gunther Steiner, and she's at 106 in 2nd. So that's our Formula One fantasy, and I literally could have zeros across the board this week and still be ahead of you guys. So
that's terrible. I might have to spend 25 points and get rid of a driver and a constructor and a principal. Just so
we'll need to talk about. We'll need to talk about that rule. We might have to make it a little less drastic.
You know what? I do like the challenge of you can't have the same principal or car or whatever from the same team. Like you do have to spread it around, because this is a great example of strategy. Like your strategy was, okay, you know what? I'm going to get the principal and then I'll build out from there. Whereas it sounds like Jess and I went with the same route. We went with driver and then constructor, or went with the team principal. And really the team principal in qualifying is what's helping you get the little lead.
Yeah.
Because if we had, let's say if I had Total Wolff, but I didn't have Lewis Hamilton, maybe I had Pierre Gasly, let's say, I would probably be in a better position because Total Wolff's drivers are doing better in qualifying. And that would get me more points than, let's say, one driver who may get me a maximum of 25 points. Like you're getting 15 points just on qualifying, and we haven't even started race day. So I think the strategy works. So I just can't submit to the whole, you can have 2 from the same team now. I kind of like it. We're learning our lesson. And plus, like, we have to bank on that, nothing happens to Aston Martin or any of your drivers qualifying or race day. So you're on an early lead week 3, but who knows? Even if you don't finish on any of them, we could close that gap and there's still 20 races to go. So,
yeah, which actually, you bring that up because, like, if I decide that, okay, let's say Aston Martin starts all of a sudden falling apart, I can then get rid of Mike Crack, which I hate that name because it sounds like I'm saying Mike Crack. I had to say it because every time I'm saying it, it sounds like I say that, and I'm like, dude, this is so weird. But anyway, I could get rid of him and I can spare the 25 points. So
right.
It's actually good, but also it could be beneficial towards if I have to change anyone. So anyway, all right. I just wanted to, rub that in your face.
Gee, thanks.
All right, Cody. So let's talk about some NBA talk. There's a lot of things going on in the NBA. Obviously, right now, the Lakers are in the play-in, which is surprising because they kind of died against the Bulls.
Yeah.
But the Lakers. Listen, this is a pretty decent team. Obviously, Anthony Davis has to be firing on all cylinders. It really does. It really does matter how he plays. And we can, get to that on another day. But anyway, so it's good news for Laker fans. There's a lot going on in the West, just trying to make the play-in or the playoffs. I mean, what is it? The difference between, 6th place and 12th place is like 2 games or 3 games. So it is a very interesting race towards the end. So it'll be fun to watch towards the end here. But let's talk about a bigger topic that's been going around of recent, and that's the NBA MVP talk. And a lot of people have said it's got to be Joel Embiid. We can't have Jokic win it 3 years in a row. And a lot of the argument of Joel Embiid is, he's the leader in points per game with 33.3 points per game. He's shooting a really good percentage of 54.5%. He's shooting 34.1% from 3. I mean, he's an 85.6 free throw percent shooter. He's getting 10.2 rebounds a game, averaging 4.2 assists a game, and 1.7 blocks. So you can see his efficiency number is 36.1, which is really, it's the best in the NBA. So That's the argument for Joel Embiid. The argument against Joel Embiid is he's missed 14 games this season, and it sounds like they just came out and said he is going to miss basically the rest of the year, is what it sounds like. Maybe he'll come back for a couple more games, but he's going to miss a good chunk of games. And so a lot of people say he shouldn't get it because he's missed so many games, and NBA just passed or is about to pass a law. Good God, like it's a state. They're just going to pass a rule where you have to play a certain amount of games to be considered for MVP or Rookie of the Year, whatever it may be. So, Cody, I know you kind of was like, it's not really like who should win and should this person win. I'm going to I think it's a 2-man race. I don't really think there's many guys in it. I mean, you could maybe make the argument for Giannis, but we're just going to say it's Jokic or Embiid. Who is winning MVP for you?
So here's the thing. This answer is kind of tough because it's twofold. For me, I do think that the NBA is actually going to squeak by and give it to Embiid because there's such an uproar last season with him not winning it. Obviously he's, scoring the number 1 amount of points in the NBA. He's the leading scorer in the NBA, scoring champion. He's having a great year at the field. Even 3-point shooting is pretty good. Free throws are pretty good. But here's the thing. Just looking at the numbers, it's Jokic that should probably be the 3-time NBA champion or 3-time NBA MVP, unfortunately. Now, it's not that I don't think that Jokic is a great player. I don't like him. I'm just basing it off of numbers. Denver Nuggets have been the number 1 team in the Western Conference for almost the entire season. They've had a small drop-off earlier this month. They've bounced back and have increased the lead. The only team that's close to them is the Sacramento Kings, and I think they're still like 3 or 4 games in front of them. And they are on, I think, like a 7-game winning streak, if I'm not mistaken, or a 4-game winning streak. Just looking at the numbers, so Joel Embiid may outscore Jokic, but according to ESPN.com, Jokic is scoring nearly 10% better from the field than Joel Embiid, 5% better from 3-point shooting. Joel Embiid is beating Jokic in free throw shooting. However, Jokic is out rebounding Joel Embiid and has more than double the assists from Joel Embiid. Not only that, but he has almost 20 more double-doubles in the season than Joel Embiid. Plus, Jokic has had 29 triple-doubles compared to Joel Embiid's 1. So again, based on pure numbers, I think the 76ers are a really good team. Obviously, they're nothing without Joel Embiid. I think the exact same, if not more, is said for Jokic because, look, if you take him off of the Denver Nuggets, are the Denver Nuggets even nearly as good as they are right now? Because I think the 76ers would be better off without Joel Embiid than Denver Nuggets without Jokic, in my opinion. Here's the thing, though. I think the NBA still will give it to Joel Embiid because I don't think the NBA is going to want to deal with the backlash of giving Jokic the MVP for 3 consecutive seasons. Like that, I don't think that's been done since Michael Jordan, I think. And even still, he didn't win it every single year that he played in the NBA because, again, the NBA wants some change. They want different people to be there. And I think that it's going to go to Embiid outright, or not outright, but just by the sheer fact of, Joel Embiid has done all this for Philadelphia. He deserves an award, and they're going to give him that award, even though the numbers speak that it should be Joker. But here's the thing. Anytime I bring that up, I always get people pushing back that, oh, well, anytime they go one-on-one, Joel Embiid gets him. Okay, and? Like, that doesn't mean nothing. Yeah, so that way, I mean, Jokic has never been the defensive presence that Joel Embiid has, but Joel Embiid doesn't bring up the ball and facilitate the offense like Joker does for the Denver Nuggets. So that'd be my argument to that. Like, Joker is that offense inside and out, and the numbers prove it. Like, it is a huge gap. And not only that, but Jokic has played like more games and will probably finish the season with far more games than Joel Embiid. And yet Joel Embiid will probably get the MVP because of the disparity. So that's what I would say regarding this race.
I actually did misspeak. That Nikola Jokic, is actually has the best efficiency rating in the NBA in 38.6 over Joel Embiid's 36.1. So his efficiency rate is better, and it goes to what you were saying. He's got way more assists. He's almost got 5 more. He does have 5 more assists on average than Joel Embiid. He's got more rebounds per game by like 1 rebound, but still averaging that's a pretty big number. And then the only thing that Joel Embiid has over Jokic is the points per game, and that's the free throw percentage, and that's about it. Jokic is got everything else. So I agree with you. I don't think Joel Embiid should be the MVP, but not because I don't think he's having a good or a great year this year. I think, honestly, the games that he has missed, I think it matters. And I love the rule that the NBA is going to pass about that you got to play a certain amount of games to be considered for awards, and especially an MVP. Because, hey, it matters. It does. I don't want my MVP to only have played 55 games out of the 82 game season. So I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm now I'm becoming old, but I really just don't understand how it shouldn't matter. Oh, well, because a guy got injured, now you're going to hurt him for all these incentives, or he shouldn't get an MVP because he just had some freak accident. I'm not saying that it was that he got hurt on purpose. I understand that injuries happen and it sucks. But if I were a player and I got hurt and I didn't play a certain amount of games and I had really good numbers, I mean, I would at least be grateful that I was even in the running, but hey, it sucks. I got hurt. But the thing is the Sixers are shutting him down because they're waiting for him to be ready for the playoffs. So obviously, I think they had to have a conversation with Joel Embiid and say, hey, listen, you're probably going to miss out on the NBA MVP. And I understand that's going to be really hard to take. But listen, we think that you and this team can really push it into the playoffs, and we believe that we have a team to get into the NBA Finals. So we need you healthy. So we're going to sit you for the rest of the game, or for the rest of the year, And yes, you're going to miss out on the MVP, but wouldn't you rather win finals MVP? And I'm sure that was a discussion that they had. And I think that's the right move. As much as it sucks if you're a Sixers fan, as much as it sucks that maybe you just don't want to see a guy win 3 years in a row, I'm on the ball of I don't think Joel Embiid will win it because of the games that he has missed, but I also think he's okay with it because I think they are trying to keep him healthy. And I do think even if Embiid ended the year, you can make an argument for Joel Embiid, but I think I would still go with Jokic just because he's doing everything. And I know everyone wants to say, well, he's stat padding, he's doing what Russell Westbrook. He is not. The thing with Russell Westbrook was telling teams to let him get the rebounds. Jokic is a 7-footer who's always by the rim, guarding a center who is always by the rim. He's going to get rebounds. It just happens. Okay, it's not like his teammates are like, "Oh no, I'll let you get that one," like what it was with Westbrook. So I hate when people are comparing that because they're like, "Oh well, maybe the assist, I guess, but you want your teammates to make it." So I don't think that's really a reasonable argument of, well, they're just giving him the assist. Cool, they're scoring points, so that's all they care about.
You got to score the bucket to get the assist. You don't get the assist just on throwing a pass. They got to make the bucket.
Yeah, and if he were stat padding as well, he would also be scoring more points than what he's scoring now. But they don't need him to. They don't ask him to. They ask him to do everything else. Hey, why don't you be a facilitator? Hey, why don't you go grab some of these rebounds and start the fast break? And that's exactly what he does. He runs that team. So I think Nikola Jokic, I keep wanting to say Jokovic. Jokic, he definitely deserves everything, including the MVP for a third year in a row. Now, do I think he's like the best ever and he should be getting three in a row? I mean, that's a different kind of argument, but just talking about this year, he deserves the MVP in my opinion. So
yeah. All right, Drew, can I lead you into the next one?
You may.
Okay. So, Drew, I know that you've been gone for a while, but some news has broken out in the NFL the last few weeks. So if you need to be up to speed, I'm going to give it to you right now. Aaron Rodgers came out at the Pat McAfee show. You and I have Marco Polo this. This is why it's so funny.
Yeah.
So Pat McAfee on his show, Aaron Rodgers basically confirmed that, he's requested to go play for the New York Jets from the Packers. Basically, his tenure at the Packers is over. And he's hoping that the two teams facilitate a trade to get him over there. Also, too, he didn't outright decline the ransom note. I'm sorry, the list that was required for his services. Same thing. And so he didn't outright deny it. He said it was foolish, but he did allude to like, yeah, you want your friends to come with you. Yeah. So anyways, so the Jets have done almost everything they can to make it happen. I think they're meeting with Odell Beckham Jr. tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken, as we're recording this on Tuesday night. And right now, the Packers are reportedly requesting or wanting at least a first-round pick for Aaron Rodgers to trade him over to New York. This week, though, on Twitter, Lamar Jackson basically has come out and said that, that he has formally requested a trade from the Baltimore Ravens as of March 2nd. So we've almost gone the entire month that he requested this. And now he's putting it out there in public. And I think for a good reason, because the Ravens or the sources weren't doing it for him, even though he did this request kind of like under the table, like, hey, between us guys, let's make this happen. Because again, the relationship is soured, which I assumed was going to happen this offseason with the way they were treating him. But anyways, the reported price tag on Lamar Jackson is also a first-round pick. So, Drew, if you're a team and you had a first-round pick, who would you want?
Lamar Jackson.
And why?
He's better.
Is that all you got?
That's all I have, man. I'm telling you, I mean, this is such a dumb debate. Listen, Aaron Rodgers is an all-time great. He's a Hall of Famer. We all know that. Lamar Jackson is better right now.
Right.
Lamar Jackson is a better quarterback right now. Why? Because he can stay in the pocket, but he can also run. Does he have an injury history? Yes. But Aaron Rodgers does as well. How little we forget about how Aaron Rodgers broke his collarbone and, the Packers are doomed and blah, blah, blah. Listen, the drama with Aaron Rodgers is to be expected. Okay. With Lamar Jackson, this is a little unexpected. We didn't know that, but it's not just Lamar Jackson. It's also the Baltimore Ravens saying, this is what we're willing to give you. We're not going to budge. They're not negotiating. They're saying it's this or you're gone. And so Lamar Jackson said, okay, well, it's this or I'm gone.
Right.
And so they've come to a head, and Baltimore basically is like, we're calling your bluff. Go ahead. And now Lamar Jackson's like, okay, I'm calling your bluff, and I'm actually going to tell everyone. And so I think Baltimore doesn't want to pay him because he does get injured. And I actually heard this stat on my boy Colin Cowherd's show today, which was out of the last 22 games that of the Ravens of their playing, he has missed 10 of those games. So he's only played in 12 of those 22 games. That's a big number. So I do understand where Baltimore is coming from and I think it's actually reasonable. At first I was like, Baltimore is just stupid. But I do think it is kind of reasonable. Like, listen, we're not going to give you guaranteed like 4 or all your whole contract. We'll give you maybe 2. We could maybe talk about 3 guarantee years, but we're not going to go any further than that. And I think Lamar Jackson wants a fully guaranteed contract, as he should. I don't think that's wrong either, and I don't think that's unreasonable either. But I think he does understand where Baltimore is coming from. I don't think Lamar Jackson is dumb and going, well, I've done this for them, which I'm sure he is doing a lot of like, listen, I got them out of the dumps. But we'll see what happens. But if I had to choose from the 2 quarterbacks, I would want Lamar Jackson. If the Raiders would have, which is funny because he went on, Aaron Rodgers went on Pat McAfee's show and was saying, I wanted to go to a team where I had one of my former players, and I was like, and he was all, Pat McAfee was like, Devontae Adams, you wanted to go to the Raiders. He's like, well, I didn't say that, but there is a guy who, I really wanted to play with again. He's all, it's Devontae Adams.
Yeah.
And so that was really funny. Yeah, I mean, he basically said he wanted to come with the Raiders. And the Raiders were like, no, we want Jimmy Garoppolo, which is just so dumb. But anyway.
Okay, hold on. Oh, okay. Yes. So first off, I'm just going to interject on just the Raiders point real quick. I agree. Yes. If we're choosing between Jimmy Garoppolo or Aaron Rodgers, Aaron Rodgers. You're right. You win that one. But here's why I think it was smart for the Raiders to maybe let Aaron Rodgers pass. Okay. Again, you're giving up a high price tag for a player that you don't know is going to commit to you for long term. And the last team that drafted a first round quarterback, which I think is what the Raiders is going to do in this draft, he did not like that, voiced his opinion about it, and was really disgruntled. Because if I'm the Raiders and let's say I do get Aaron Rodgers, I'm still drafting the future because the dude's 39 years old. He's not playing for 5 to 10 years. We're lucky to get 2 seasons out of him. I think Jimmy Garoppolo is the safer option, quote unquote, because kind of a bridge quarterback. Maybe he has a little bit of magic. He understands the system, can communicate well, but he's not going to get upset if you draft his replacement because he understands the business. I think Aaron Rodgers being a little bit of a diva would have damaged our plans if we are on the road to prosperity, so to speak. I don't think it's a big difference between Derek Carr and Jimmy G, but I do think in terms of our future, what we would be giving up for a future Hall of Fame player, which by the way, we should probably maybe ask if he is a future Hall of Famer because he's got 1 Super Bowl in his entire career. And we have like someone like Eli Manning, who's got 2 Super Bowls that we were on the fence with all of a sudden, so I just think that, Aaron Rodgers is great. He can throw the ball really well, but he's kind of showing in a team game. He's not really winning any championships. I'm just pointing that out. So That's my only defense of the Raiders.
So. My beef with you on when you start talking about Aaron Rodgers is, he's a Hall of Famer. That would be like asking if Dan Marino is a Hall of Famer. Dan Marino is a Hall of Famer, okay? Aaron Rodgers is a Hall of Famer. Eli Manning and Aaron Rodgers are not on the same level. Aaron Rodgers is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Eli Manning will probably get in, but it'll probably take a couple of years before he actually goes in.
Actually, I think he gets in first. Wrong. I think he gets in first try. He's on ESPN. He's a lovable personality. The Hall of Fame loves their personalities. Look at T.O. T.O. was almost annexed from the Hall of Fame just because of how his personality was. We're not looking at stats. We're just talking about how we don't like him. And it took him forever to get in. I think Eli Manning gets in first shot. Do I think he should get in first shot? No, but he probably will.
All right. But I mean, you kind of made my point what I was going with. You were saying like Jimmy Garoppolo is a safer option, and I agree with you. But I would also think that Lamar Jackson is an even safer option. And the reason I say that is Jimmy Garoppolo, when he runs, he gets hurt. Right. I mean, he gets hurt every single year. So if you're going to pay a guy who's going to get hurt, yes, I understand that Jimmy Garoppolo is cheaper. He's run this offense before. But Lamar Jackson, what was killing a lot of Raider fans with Derek Carr was he wasn't running as much. Well, Lamar Jackson can do that. And I think a lot of guys would be attracted to play with the Raiders and be willing to take pay cuts to play with Lamar Jackson. So I think Lamar Jackson is a guy that a lot of teams need to be going after, and it just doesn't seem like all these teams are going after him, which is weird. Mm-hmm. I understand the Chiefs not going after him. I understand the Chargers not going after him. The Bengals, obviously the Saints because they just signed, a guy. But like I understand, like the Broncos or I understand certain teams who already have a quarterback established who they believe in or whatever. But there's still about 25 teams who still need a quarterback or would want Lamar Jackson over who they have. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I think the Patriots, or you had mentioned the Commanders a few weeks ago. So I think there are a ton of teams, and I find it weird that it's not a lot of teams that seems like they're in the sweepstakes with Jackson. And I understand that he is an injury-prone guy, but he's also a guy who could really do some damage and really bring your team up from whatever dumps they're in. I mean, I think this is a move that maybe the Panthers should have thought about doing instead of trading for the first overall pick, in my opinion. Because, yes, you have the first overall pick. You have the pick from whoever you like the most. But I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft, and yes, I'm going to be on record saying it. I don't think there's a quarterback in this draft that is going to end up being better than Lamar Jackson. Maybe I'm wrong, and I will admit it if I am wrong, but I just think that Lamar Jackson is something special. I think he is a guy that should be on an NFL team like tomorrow with a huge contract because he definitely deserves it, and he is that special.
What's actually funny is, last season, I think before, the Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler regime started, there was even rumors whether or not they wanted to keep Derek Carr, I think, for a minute. And, there was speculation that if, let's say, Derek Carr was to be moved, or I think this is right before got his contract extension, obviously there are reports that more than half of the NFL would be interested in paying to get Derek Carr, whether it be by trade or, working out a deal to get him on their team. And I know not a lot has changed within a year. Sure, some teams may have found a quick quarterback fix in the meantime, and, this draft might help them. But it's just weird that Lamar Jackson, for some reason, doesn't have a market. Now, maybe that's because of the franchise tag that was placed on him. Maybe it was the guaranteed money. But, I mean, teams before have paid hand over fist for talent not nearly half as good as Lamar. So it's kind of weird how all of a sudden that market is just non-existent for him. So if there's ever an example of the NFL, kind of blackballing some players because they're not willing to play ball or they're going against the system, I think that's a great example. We can't ignore the fact that Lamar Jackson does get injured quite a bit. And for the last few seasons, he's been injured. I mean, just as you pointed out with Colin Cowherd, the last 22 games, he's only been a part of 10 of those games. Or he's missed about 10 of those games. Yeah. Aaron Rodgers has missed, like you said, substantial time. And I agree. I think if you're a team that really wants to make a difference in your organization and you have maybe a team that's like a bubble team and you're just like maybe one quarterback away that could propel you, I'm surprised that teams aren't trying to get Lamar Jackson services right now because he could be that difference maker. I mean, I know that the Rams maybe aren't in the market for a quarterback, but if Sean McVay ever got his hands on a Lamar Jackson type quarterback,
oh my God,
that would be an interesting team to have. I'm actually now even more holding out hope that the Washington Commanders could get Lamar Jackson because today news broke that a bid basically was submitted to purchase the Washington Commanders from Dan Snyder, thankfully, and they're trying to push it to where new ownership takes over as early as draft night, which would be great. Because can you imagine some draft night magic with the Commanders giving up a first-round pick to get someone like Lamar Jackson, with a pretty good established offensive line, some pretty good offensive weapons, and a up-and-coming defense with Eric Bieniemy as the OC? Again, I'm just going to repeat. I'm fantasizing that does happen just for the sheer fact I want to brag about it. But I think that could be a possibility depending on how things play out. But I agree with you. You did call me on BS when it came to Aaron Rodgers. I do think he's a Hall of Famer. There's really no doubt that he throws the football very well. I guess my only issue is, we seem to make a lot of caveats for Aaron Rodgers on why he's so great. And again, in the regular season, he's really good. He throws the ball really well. He's very accurate with the football in the regular season. But when it comes to the time that's most important is the time that he's not Aaron Rodgers. He's something else, and it's not great. And he's had one Super Bowl appearance, which he did win back in 2009. And he only has been back 3 different occasions that I can recall to the NFC Championship game. And each trip lost. And some occasions didn't even get out of the divisional round. So, I know that we want to put Aaron Rodgers on this pedestal. And again, I'm not doubting his talent, but just for the sheer fact of he's just not producing in the playoffs. He's he's a diva. He's got to command a lot of attention, even though he says he doesn't. There's absolutely no doubt that if he goes to a market like New York, it's going to be an attention seeking city. And I just don't know if teams want to put up with that for one season. The Jets are trying to, it looks like they're really pushing all their eggs into one basket. They're really putting all their chips in the middle. I don't know if it's going to pay off, to be honest, because I don't even know if the Jets are the best team in their division, considering that they'd have to, go against the Bills and the Dolphins twice, and not including the Patriots twice, which I know the Patriots are great, but Bill Belichick, you got to believe, always gets that team, prepared to play just about anybody. So I don't know. Even if the Jets do pull it off, which they probably will somehow, some way, they're going to make it happen. Again, I don't even know if they'll be the best team in the AFC East when we do our predictions. So, but if I'm an NFL team and I need a quarterback, Lamar Jackson to me is the quarterback you want to sign, trade for, because you can hold on to him for future, and he, you put the right personnel around him and he can make some magic. Look what he's done in Baltimore with, I would argue, with really little talent. I mean, the only talent that they have is on the defensive side of the ball. They don't really have a whole lot outside of Mark Andrews on the offensive side of the ball. So that's what I would say.
Yeah, I mean, the point that you made that I 100% agree with is Aaron Rodgers is great in the regular season, but come postseason, in the regular season, he is attack. I'll go deep on you. I'll cut, 1,000 or death by 1,000 cuts, stuff like that. I'll do whatever I have to win this game. And then in the playoffs, it's I'm timid. I don't really want to go downfield. I'll dump it off to my running backs who are, very talented, but, in the playoffs, the defenses are even more talented than in the regular season, and you don't get that break in the playoffs. And so, I don't think that hurts Aaron Rodgers in the grand scheme of things. But when you're talking about signing a guy to a big contract, giving up a lot of assets, that does have to come into play, because you're not signing Aaron Rodgers just to have a great season. You're signing Aaron Rodgers to possibly get to the Super Bowl and win it. So I completely agree with you on that. Sorry, I was like choking earlier, so trying to get my my breath back. Anyway, so MLB, Major League Baseball is back, baby. We just had our fantasy draft on Sunday after we painted all freaking day. So then we had to rush home, get ready, shower like super quick, and then get ready. And you were kind enough to drop my daughter off, because your daughter and my daughter had a sleepover. So you were like, "Yeah, I'll bring them." Mm-hmm. So and I was like, "Why don't you just stay and draft with us?" And you did, which was fun. I had a few beers because I was so dead. I was so exhausted. But you know what? The beers didn't affect me because I drafted phenomenally. But anyway.
Yeah, I had probably the worst drafts maybe I've ever had in your. I should have drank. I probably would have turned out better. It was so bad for me. For the listeners out there, it's a snake draft. There's only like 6 of us in the league. 8. Sorry. Mm-hmm. There's 8 this year. And I got to be honest, I walked into his place, sat on the couch, and I was like, oh, right, we have to draft. And I'm looking at the list, and I'm like, God, who am I supposed to pick? And I don't know. I had like at least a dozen panic picks of like, clock's winding down. Pick a player. I don't know if he's good or not. And I'm like, this sucked. Like, I was so unprepared.
But it was still fun. We had a good time, and maybe we'll talk about our our team another day. But let's talk about opening day. Major League Baseball is definitely back. There's new rules in place. We kind of already had talked about them in a previous episode, so I'm not going to really go over them. But I'll kind of like quick hit them, I guess. It'll be more of, there's bigger bases. There's a pitch clock, and then there is no shifts or, limit to the shifts. So those are the new rule changes, which I really like the commercials that they put out, and the stars that have come out and said, I think it's going to be better and stuff like that. And I do too. I'm watching spring training right now. The Angels have scored 13 runs and Dodgers only 5. And I have been watching from beginning to end. And like, we started this podcast and it was it was starting of the 5th inning, and it's gone through super quick. Like in an hour that we've been recording, the game is almost over. So it's going well. I'm going to like baseball a lot more because it's going to be a lot quicker. It's not as much time consuming. I mean, we were literally just talking about how you and I can't finish WWE Raw or SmackDown because we don't have that much time to just sit down and watch it. So, it's kind of the same with baseball, and especially baseball is every single day. Mm-hmm. So you can't sit there every day and watch 3 to 4 hours of baseball. I mean, I love it. I had no problem with it, but then you really don't do anything the rest of the day. And, wives tend to not like that. So
exactly. When you're unavailable to the wives, they slash time real quick.
Yes. So this is going to be a really fun year, though, because I don't think there's really... I don't want to say it like this because it sounds like I don't think there's any team that's like good, but I don't think there's really any teams that I feel like are going to be super dominant. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people would maybe argue, the Mets, like their pitching rotation is like stacked, obviously with Verlander and Scherzer. Their lineup is ridiculous. Houston's pretty good as well, obviously coming off their World Series win. We could always talk about the Dodgers, but I think with injuries and some of the things that they're trying to wait for, aka Ohtani, they really didn't go make these splash moves. So I kind of feel like it's an even field. A lot of I'm sorry, I didn't even mention the Padres as well. Padres are another team that a lot of people are saying are stacked, which I agree with, but I don't think they're going to be like super dominant. I do think I would probably bet them to win the NL West over the Dodgers, and I know that's probably sacrilegious to some people, and especially I'm in my in-laws' house right now, and they're big Dodger fans, so if they're hearing it right now, they're probably not happy. But anyway, the Dodgers lost Walker Buehler for all year, all of this year. Clayton Kershaw is long in the tooth right now. He's kind of struggling. Julio Urias, honestly, I don't think he's going to have the year that he had last year. I think he's going to have some issues. So I do think Dodgers pitching is going to be an issue. And then honestly, their lineup is not as strong as it was last year. Losing Trey Turner is going to show huge. And then them not having the experiencing Justin Turner, that's also going to be an issue. So I do think in the long run, I could see the Padres winning the NL West. But like I said, I don't look at a team and go, this team is going to be like the best. I don't think there's that one team. So, Cody, let's talk about this first. The AL representative to go into the World Series and the NL representative to go in the World Series. Who do you think is going to represent the two leagues in the World Series come season end?
Oh, man. Okay, so you're right. There's absolutely not a great deal of parity in terms of like a superpowered team. I mean, depending on who you ask, you're going to get a handful of answers. I know last year it was overwhelmingly like Dodgers, Astros. A lot of people had overwhelming expectations for the Mets, like you pointed out. I'd even say the Yankees had really high expectations. But I think towards the end of last season, we saw a lot of teams that really shined. Some of them, really young teams that got into the playoffs that were kind of a surprise team. And I think they've only gotten a little bit better. And of course, when you get a season under your belt, it does help with the experience. In the AL, I think I have two teams in mind that I think are probably the best threat, so to speak, to win in the AL. One of them being the defending champion, Houston Astros. I think that they've been consistent every single year for several years. We want to hate them because of the scandal they got themselves into years ago. But since then, all they do is make it into the AL championship series, and they just recently won the World Series. So I think Houston is one team that I would look at, like a dark horse team that I think would probably surprise a lot of people, but I think they showed a lot of promise last season. I'm actually going to say the Seattle Mariners would be an AL team I think could possibly represent the AL. I think they had a really great flash in the postseason. I think their pitching probably could get up to standards to where they can do really well, especially with all the rule changes. I think it'll help the younger players. Julio Rodriguez is an up-and-coming star in the league, not including like some other players that they have in their farm system that could help propel them. So I think for sure Astros are that team that's probably going to get back there. I think the Mariners, though, are a team that could surprise some people in the AL. And for me, I wouldn't be surprised if they did represent the AL. I think it'd be interesting in the AL. Sorry, not the AL, the NL. You mentioned the Padres. You mentioned the Mets. I think a team that in the NL would be, a team that could surprise a lot of people or maybe get there would be probably the Dodgers or the Brewers. I think would be an interesting NL team. I think that they've each made Dodgers lost some bats, like you mentioned. Pitching is getting long in the tooth. They're a lot older. But I think, too, like that team is just, they always find a way to win. They have a really deep lineup. And I imagine come the trade deadline, they will find a way to shore it up. And I think the Brewers, I think that they are a team that's just knocking on the door. And I wouldn't be surprised if they're a team that comes out of the NL that not a lot of people saw coming, because it seems like every year there's at least one or two teams that come out that had moderate expectations and then just exceeded them and took the league by storm. And I think the Brewers, it could be their year this year with some of the stuff they have and some of the pitching rotation specifically. And again, a lot of the rules that they put in, like the pitching clock and the batter's clock, might benefit the pitchers in this respect. And the Brewers have some really good starting pieces, and they're just, I don't know. I think they're a team that could also stay consistent, and they were knocking on the door last year, and I think that they could show some pretty good improvements this year.
This is a tough one because, first of all, I can hear my son yelling right now. Sorry, it's going to distract me a little bit. But, I can see a lot of teams coming out of the AL or the NL, as you kind of mentioned. It's like I said in the beginning, there's not really a clear-cut team, in my opinion, that's going to be a dominant team. However, I do feel like coming out of the American League, I usually like to say the Yankees, which last year I actually said the Astros. So I was proud of myself for that. And, I've actually been pretty impressed with how the Angels have added a few, but their pitching is still nowhere close. I really like the Guardians and Twins as possible and possible like sneak plays, or even the Toronto Blue Jays, I think is an interesting team. And I would even say the Red Sox. I would still throw the Red Sox in there. They've added a lot, and they've gotten younger, and they have a lot of experience as well. And I don't know, they're going to get healthy at the right time. Trevor Story is going to be out for a few 2 to 3, maybe even 4 months of the year, which is a big chunk. But when he comes back, it's going to be a bat that you have to be worried about, and he's a pretty good defender, in my opinion. I know a lot of people, his errors are up or whatever, but he was playing the shortstop position. You get a lot of errors when you're a shortstop, so I'm not too worried about it. But anyway, so we'll see what happens, but I still think Houston's coming out of the AL. I think that team is pretty loaded. I mean, you talk about Jeremy Pena, who I had last year in fantasy baseball, and I just got him because I was like, well, we'll see how he does, and I just needed a backup guy. I had no intention on keeping him, and he ended up being one of my best players in fantasy baseball. I mean, he was so good. He's a guy who can hit for power. He's going to hit for average. Now, he was a rookie last year, so coming into this year, my always worry is these second-year guys. Pitchers now kind of know how to pitch you, so you're going to have to you'll have to keep an eye on that. So I probably will see him regress a little bit, and especially with Jose Altuve being out for a few months, that could be a big thing as well. And I know Michael Brantley is also hurt right now, but their pitching is still solid. I mean, yes, they lost Verlander, but they still have 3 of the 4 top guys that they had last year. And Verlander being gone now, yes, that does affect it, but it's still, they're going to be a very solid team. And that's why I don't think they're going to run away with this thing, but I do think they're going to be the representative team, because come playoff time, they should be healthy at that point. Not only that, but they just signed a former American League MVP in Jose Abreu. I mean, this guy is a phenomenal hitter. He's done nothing but consistently hit 275 every year and, blast over 25 home runs every year. I mean, this guy is just Mr. Consistency when it comes to first baseman at bat. So, and he'll probably play a lot of DH as well. So, and I love Kyle Tucker this year. I think Kyle Tucker is such an underrated player. Kyle Tucker, we got to see him when Houston Astros, their AAA affiliate, were the Grizzlies here in Fresno. And Kyle Tucker was there with the Grizzlies for 2 years, I believe. And God, the ball just bounces off the bat on him. I mean, he just would hit home run after home run. I mean, it just seemed like every time I went and saw the Grizzlies, Kyle Tucker was hitting a home run. You knew it was going to happen. So, I really like him, and I just really like this Astros team for sure. Alex Bregman as well. I haven't even mentioned him, which is crazy. He's still a really good hitter, and so I really like this Astros team. I think they're going to be representing the American League. In the National League, this is a tough one. I really did want to say the Mets because I really do like their 1-2 punch when it comes to Verlander and Scherzer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's probably, in my opinion, that's the best 1-2 punch in baseball right now. I don't think there's any other 1-2 punch I would prefer to have out of all the other teams. But after that, it's Carrasco, who gets hurt a lot. Peterson, who had a really nice year last year. Hopefully he can continue that. And then it's kind of, I don't know, it's not great in my opinion. The pitching is okay.
And they lost their closer during the World Baseball Classic.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to bring up is the relief pitching without Diaz is mediocre. It's not fantastic. Now, I like Ottavino that they have. I think he's a really good relief pitcher, but you can't throw him out every day. So as much as this is going to pain me to say, I'm going to say it. I do think the San Diego Padres are going to be the representative of the National League. And the reason I say that is their starting pitching isn't the best in my opinion, but they have some really good. I think Blake Snell can come back and be a little bit better this year. Yu Darvish actually had a really good year last year. Joe Musgrove is going to be coming back eventually. I think he's going to be coming back after like a week. He's not even going to be gone for that long. And they have a really good starting rotation. I don't hate their starting rotation. They got rid of Manaea, who didn't have a great year for them, and they got rid of I'm blank Clevinger, who also wasn't really doing all that well in San Diego. So they got rid of some riffraff that was kind of holding them back a little bit, and I think that will definitely benefit them. And then their lineup is, I mean, you talk about Manny Machado, who I was saying all last year, he should be NL MVP. I mean, this guy is what he's doing without, the supposable big star in Fernando Tatis,
mm-hmm.
and what he was doing and holding the Padres up basically by himself at points was just insane. So, you have Machado. Now you add Bogarts. Fernando Tatis is going to be coming back, pretty well. I say pretty soon. He's going to be out for like the first month, but he's going to be back. Juan Soto, and San Diego really thinks they're going to hang on to him. I still am not there yet, but I'm starting to think he might. I love Jake Cronenworth. I think he's a big time utility guy that in a time where you need utility guys, you need guys who can play every position. I feel like Jake Cronenworth literally could play any position and they'll be fine. And so this is a really good roster. This is a really good team. I went 5 guys deep just out of their hitters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're not even talking about like Kim, who is a guy who's probably going to see a lot of playing time. You're not even talking about
Bogarts.
Well, I did say Bogarts, but you're just talking about Nelson Cruz. That was the other guy I missed. Nelson Cruz. Yes, he's like 45 years old and didn't have the greatest year last year, but he is a guy that all you're paying him to do is hit, and that's all they need him to do. Mm-hmm. And he'll do it really well. He'll hit a lot of bombs. So this is a very scary lineup. I mean, you're talking about 6 deep that I would be scared of, that you cannot make a mistake. That's more than half of that lineup. That is really, really tough to go against every single day. And I think the Padres, unfortunately, as much as I don't like it, I think they will be the representative of the National League.
What are your expectations for the Giants this season?
Oh boy, where do I begin? No, I actually think Giants aren't going to be. They're not going to be that bad this year. I really don't. I think I don't think they're going to rival the Dodgers or the Padres. Hold on. They're not going to rival the Padres, in my opinion. I do think they could potentially, if everything falls how it should be, then I think they can battle the Dodgers for second place in a possible wild card spot. Now, do I think that's going to happen? I would probably be, if I were a betting man, I would probably bet that the Giants would at least get third place in the NL West. I do think the Diamondbacks are a little bit better this year. I think the Rockies actually have done some nice things, but I think they're about a couple of years away still of being really competitive. And so then I think the Padres and Dodgers are obviously at top. So I do think the Giants are about third because Logan Webb last year was phenomenal. I don't see him changing that. Alex Cobb, as much as I hated that signing last year, he actually had a really good year for the Giants. Was he the best? No, he wasn't the best, but he was really solid. He was very consistent. You knew what you were getting out of Alex Cobb. It was about 6 innings of work, maybe about 4 strikeouts. He'd probably allow about 4 hits, maybe a couple of runs, and that's solid. That's all you really needed. Anthony DeSclafani, even though he is a guy that can't give up the long ball, and that's the issue. When he's wrong, he's going to give it up. But when he's right, he is a solid pitcher. He's a really good pitcher. I think he's going to be really good. Alex Wood has been really good for us. Honestly, I would say he's been great for us. He's been very solid. And then we added Ross Stripling and Sean Manaea. And I think Sean Manaea is actually he sounds more comfortable here in the Bay Area because obviously he started with the A's, had a lot of success, then went to the Padres where it kind of sputtered a little bit. And now he's coming back to the Bay Area. I expect him to be really good. He's actually a really big team favorite already. I follow their TikToks, their YouTube, all that stuff, and everything that every guy says about Sean Manaea, they just love that guy. So I think he's going to be solid. And then I love Ross Stripling. I think he's such an underrated pitcher. I think the Blue Jays were wrong in letting him go because I think he's a guy that you can throw in the bullpen when you need him, and you can also have him as a starter, and that's very, very amazing to see. Then they have really high expectations for Sean Higgelli, who's 6'11". He's their tallest pitcher out there. He's
6'11".
6'11". He's in the wrong sport. But anyway,
I think the Lakers are looking for a forward right now.
Yeah, seriously, I know. But I think they really have been raving. He's probably going to be up and down, in my opinion. He's going to have some struggles here and there, but Camilo Doval, the Rodgers twins. I think our bullpen got a lot better. Like I said, we added Higgelli. Doval has now had experience as a closer, and now he knows what he can do. Like I said, the Rodgers twins, those are probably 2 of the best setup guys that you can have on your team. John Brebbia had a really great year last year. We added Luke Jackson, who's a veteran relief pitcher, who's going to be really good. So I really like our pitching. And so I think that's what's going to excel us into a third place spot.
Do you feel more comfortable about the bullpen this year than you did last year?
Yes. Yes, I do. I think the bullpen is a lot better this year because, like I said, yes, you have to get the game to the setup guys and to the closer, but at the same time, I think we have some really good bullpen guys that can. Now, do I love every name that I'm seeing right now? No, I think there's going to be some hit and miss guys. There always is, though. But I really do like overall our relief pitching. And then I look at our lineup. Listen, there's a lot to be desired. I hope Joey Bart has a better year. He ended the year really well. I mean, we got to give him credit for that. So I'm hoping he continues that. Lamont Wade Jr., Wilmer Flores, J.D. Davis. J.D. Davis was phenomenal for us when we traded for him. So I'm glad he's back. I'm hoping for more of that from him. Wilmer Flores, he's been really solid for us every year he's been here. Lamont Wade Jr., he had a rough year last year, so hopefully he gets better this year. Tyro Estrada, he is now basically he's a really good bat, but he's going to have to be a good defender as well. Obviously, we got Crawford, Conforto, Haniger's going to start on the IL, Jock Peterson, Yastrzemski. These are guys that they've had experience, they've had moments. It's if they can continue that, they can get better. I think this Giants team is actually going to surprise a lot of people, but I also do think that they're not going to rival, first place spot. But there is a possibility I could see the Giants possibly making a move in the wild card.
Do you think they'd be wild? Oh, I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Sorry, bud. Do you? Oh, no,
you're me now.
Yeah, you're good. I think. Okay. So, do you think then they have a pretty good shot at getting one of the 3 wild cards you mentioned?
It's tough because I haven't looked at everyone's roster or the pitching and everything. I don't know. I don't want to commit. I'm going to play it safe, and I'm going to say I don't think they're going to make it to the wild card spot, one of the 3, but I do think they will be in the running towards the end.
Do you think we have any prospects that are going to get called up that can help give us a push?
I don't think we have any guys that are going to give us a push, but I do think that if the Giants aren't having a great year, or they're out of the wild card push, I do think you're going to see Marco Luciano, who's basically our number 1 prospect as in the Giants organization. He's going to start in Double-A, so he's going to have to go through Triple-A first. But I do think he could potentially be called up, and really we'll get to kind of see him. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised at how good this kid is. I don't think he's talked about enough because the Giants, haven't really thrown out all this tape, and he's had a lot of injuries, so he's been getting over those. But so I don't think there's enough tape on him to really show off what he can do. But he's special, man. I really like him.
I'm actually really encouraged by our defense too. Hopefully it doesn't screw us over this season, because I know last season was hit and miss, but it did seem like, though, once we made that trade for JD Davis, that it seemed to turn around, especially on the third base side. I know that was a weak spot for us, and hopefully we get a little bit more support in the infield on the second base and shortstop. I know for some reason we had some really bad errors, and what I mean by that is they just look like routine stuff that we just, I don't know, didn't seem fundamentally sound. So hopefully we bounce back from that this year.
Yeah, for sure.
Do you want me to lead us into the last one?
Yeah, go ahead.
So for those that don't know, I've been a wrestling fan since, I don't know, I was like 9 or 10. Okay, Drew, so WrestleMania 39 is coming up. If you remember, a long time ago, we did a WrestleMania video that for some reason went super popular. In respect to what we do in views, I will say it wasn't that bad. But anyways, so I did send you the wrestling card for WrestleMania this upcoming weekend, because I know that you're not nearly as tapped in as maybe I am. And again, that's relative, considering I only watch it for like an hour or so, because that's all the time I have to watch it. Yeah. But anyways, I sent you the list, and I thought we were going to try to watch it together, because I know it's like your annual thing with your wife, and we spent a couple of WrestleManias together. So I'm curious, what match are you most looking forward to?
Well, first of all, I don't know if we're going to be able to watch it, because Saturday we're going to celebrate our dating anniversary, and then Sunday is work at the house day. So
loser.
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Loser.
But, we're going to have to probably, unless you want to come over and help us, work in the house and then watch WrestleMania with us. That's probably fine. But anyway.
Hey, don't tempt me with a good time.
Yeah, seriously. So Saturday, I'm looking at the card, and there's five matches that is supposed to be going on. John Cena versus Austin Theory. Yawn. Rey Mysterio versus Dominic Mysterio, yawn. Rey Mysterio needs to be done, and Dominic. Listen, I know it's probably the way they want him to act or wrestle, but not really seeing it. Ray is definitely a better wrestler, and Ray should have retired like 15 years ago. So, there's that. The women's showcase tag team match. Now that one is a little bit intriguing. You got Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez versus Shoetz and Natalia versus Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler. So, and then verse to be determined. So that'll be interesting. But I really want to see. I like Ronda Rousey. I know it's probably blasphemy in the wrestling world, but I think she's entertaining. Liv Morgan has been really, really good. I really like watching her wrestle. She's gotten better and better every year. So I really am pushing for Liv Morgan and Raquel Rodriguez to win the match because I think it would be very interesting for WrestleMania, to say the least. One that I'm really excited about, on Saturday is Hell in a Cell, which is Edge versus Finn Balor. I love Finn Balor. I think he's such a good wrestler, and I don't think he gets featured nearly enough as he should. And then the Edge coming back was such a huge thing, and I'm glad he's getting his opportunity. I think this could potentially be an upset where Finn Balor actually wins, because I think they're going to pull the Finn Balor where he's going to bring out that demon again that he normally does during the big wrestling matches. And I don't know how he does it, to be honest, but there's like a switch that Finn Balor like switches when he becomes the demon, and he just seems like, maybe it's just my mind playing tricks, but he just seems more athletic, quicker. He seems like he's he understands 10 moves ahead of what his opponent does. So I really like the demon, and I really hope he brings it out for this match, because I just want to see Finn Balor and the demon.
So this past Monday night, he confirmed that it's the demon that'll be in Hell in a Cell with Edge. So you're gonna get your wish.
Yeah. All right. And then I really like the women's SmackDown Championship match, Charlotte Flair and Rhea Ripley. Rhea Ripley is a really good wrestler. She is phenomenal, and I know everyone's doing Charlotte Flair. Everyone loves Charlotte Flair because she's Ric Flair's daughter, and she is a really good wrestler. I'm not saying she's terrible, but I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of Charlotte Flair. I don't know what it is. I just think she's overhyped, so I kind of root against her. So I'm definitely going to be hoping that Rhea Ripley is the women's champion in that one. Okay. All right, so Sunday we have Lita, Becky Lynch, and Trish Stratus. God, that is a tongue twister. Versus Damage Control, which is Bayley, Dakota Kai, and Io Sky. I think if Bayley had better help, I would be a little more interested in it. I think Becky Lynch is definitely going to win this one, because I just don't see them letting Trish Stratus and Lita lose with Becky Lynch. I don't see that happening.
Yeah.
Brock Lesnar versus Omos, as two guys who cannot move in the ring. Yawn. Seth Rollins versus Logan Paul. You can miss me with Logan Paul. He's a good wrestler. He does fine, but I hope he loses, and I really don't care to watch him wrestle all that much. The men's tag team case, I can see the appeal. I like the Street Profits. I think they're fun. Okay. Viking Raiders, all right. Ricochet and Braun Strowman, that's a tag team I like, but that's the only one. The one that I'm really interested in is this one, is the triple threat match for the Intercontinental Championship match between Drew McIntyre, Sheamus, and Gunther. Now, okay, so I'm not a huge fan of Gunther. He can miss me, I really don't care about him all that much. I don't think he's that good. I think they're trying to really force him down our throats, to be perfectly honest. But I love Drew McIntyre. I think he's such a great wrestler. And I love that they're putting Sheamus in this as well. And I think it's going to be very, very interesting. The women's Raw Championship match, Bianca Belair and Asuka, I think is going to be really good. Asuka always puts on a really good show, and Belair is having a moment. And I mean, she has been phenomenal for the last 2-3 years now. So I'm really looking forward to those. But the one I'm really, really looking forward to, if I'm being perfectly honest, Roman Reigns. That's my guy. I gotta have Roman Reigns. He's the GOAT. He's the GOAT. So there you go.
All right. I appreciate you going through the entire card. I still didn't pick up who's on what day, nor did I care. But anyways, so okay, I'll give you my women's match that I'm most looking forward to, and then one men's one. I mean, there's several matches that are really good on this card, and I think a lot of them have really good storylines. I know that, again, it's harder for us to keep up with them. I've only been able to keep up with them on social media. One match I think is going to be very interesting, kind of like what you pointed out, Edge and Finn Balor, the Demon Finn Balor, who the Demon is confirmed for their match. I think that one's going to be phenomenal in Hell in a Cell. I think it's going to be super fun. The women's match I'm most looking forward to is not Belair and Asuka. It's actually Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair. I kind of have the same feeling you do about Charlotte. Like, I don't know what it is about her I don't like, but she's a good wrestler and super athletic, fun to watch, and she wins all the time. Now, granted, that is WWE pushing her, but that's okay. But I do think that that'll be a super entertaining match. I think they both match up very well physically. And there's the reason why I'm actually really looking forward to the Mysterio matches is because the storyline that has been around this whole thing has been funny. And I find that funny that you said yawn, because have you been hearing some of the promos that Dominic has been cutting about how his dad bought him a BMW rather than a Mercedes? That's one of the reasons why he's holding in grudge. He was always on the road and never there.
No, I haven't.
Okay, so some of these promos are like, he's a spoiled rich kid. One family event, he got arrested and basically got put in a holding cell, but he says when he went to prison, so he plays on this joke that he's done hard time for like 6 whole hours or whatever. And so it's just been this, it's been this funny mounting story of like Dominique has been really pushing Rey Mysterio to fight him. Rey Mysterio refuses to do it, which is funny because I saw a tweet that said Rey Mysterio is the only Hispanic father I've met that doesn't want to hit his child. Which that was the tweet.
That's so messed up. Oh god, that's terrible.
But anyways, laugh at that. But anyways, so just the storyline building up to this match has been super entertaining, which is why I would want to watch it. I think you would actually get a kick out of it because of the mic promoting that Dominic has put out on his dad. By the way, very good stuff. It's been very humorous. I think you would have gotten a kick out of it. So that's a match. And then I agree on Roman Reigns and Cody Rhodes. That's a good one. But I think the Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens, and the Usos is a really good one. And again, it's all about the story that's going to clash with the Bloodline and Sami Zayn and Kevin Owens. I think it's going to be really good. And they're all really good performers in the ring, which is what I'm looking forward to. So
I really do like the Usos. I'm not a huge fan of Kevin Owens or
Sami Zayn.
Sami Zayn. Yeah, I mean, they're really good with their promos and whatnot and building the story and whatnot, but I'm just not huge fans of them.
So since they've started the Bloodline storyline, I've been a huge fan of it. I love it. And I'm not usually one that likes heel stuff. I've like growing up, I've always been like good guy, bad guy. Like I like the faces.
Yeah.
But the heels, especially the Bloodline heels this year, have been so fun. How do you not root for the Bloodline? Like they've been the faction that you want to be in. I think it's really cool. So
yeah, I like Roman Reigns, and he's been a heel for like 5 years now.
Yeah.
And it's because everyone always booed him because like I don't know why because I think it was because WWE was like really pushing Roman Reigns to be the face, like they were trying to like get Cena out of there and be Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
And I guess people didn't like that. But whether you like it or not, Roman Reigns is really good. He's my favorite wrestler because I mean, honestly, probably of all time, because I think a guy who is that big and does the stuff that he does, I think is very impressive. Like he's basically, I mean, I think he's a little bit smaller in like muscle wise compared to like Brock Lesnar. But Brock Lesnar is it's the same 3 moves every single time.
Yeah.
It doesn't do anything new. And I feel like Roman Reigns, he mixes it up. He'll go up on top and dive bomb on you, or he'll do his famous spear, or he'll do the chop, or he'll have like a really cool kick, or whatever. And it's just like, hey, at least he's mixing it up. But yeah, him and Finn Balor, I really, really like watching. They're one of my favorite guys to watch wrestle. So
yeah, you would actually love the Attitude Era from back in like the end of end of 1990s. Like having like Stone Cold, The Rock, Triple H, all those guys in there were phenomenal.
I love DX.
So fun.
DX was always so fun.
If ever you get an opportunity to go and watch any of the classics like on Peacock, I love watching the Monday Night Wars where they get on one of my favorite episodes is when they talk about NWO and DX and the two factions of those. And the fun thing about DX is they were about comedy. NWO was about domination. And after a while that got boring, but DX always was funny. And they had they have nothing but clips and catchphrases that a lot of people still use. NWO's like claim to fame is like Hulk Hogan, Kevin Nash, and Scott Hall. Like it kind of stops there because everybody else joined them after a while. So
yeah. That's true.
All right. I think we're going to close, Drew, if you would agree with me.
Yes.
All right.
Yes,
wrap us up.
We are done. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening. I know this episode was a long one, but there's a lot to talk about. And we haven't been on here for the last couple of weeks. So thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. Happy opening day if you're listening to this on a Thursday. Super happy that baseball is back. So want to say thank you to our partners over at fnxfit.com, Fanatics, and also SeatGeek, where if you use in our description in this episode, in our social media sites, or wherever you're going to get wherever you're listening to this or watching it, please go use our description, or go into the description and use the links that we have for all of those products, where you can get some discounts from any of those, really. So definitely go check them out, and we want to say thank you to them. And if you're looking for us on social media sites, we are on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and also TikTok, as long as it's here. And then we have also YouTube as well. Please subscribe to our YouTube page. We're always putting videos up there, and please comment and like those videos as well, so that way we can continue to make more of them. And also go check out or subscribe to our podcast if you're watching this on YouTube. Subscribe to our podcast. Listen to us while you're driving. I don't think we're that hard of a listen, to be perfectly honest. I think we do pretty good. But anyway. Subscribe, rate, and review as well. Any review will help. Any rating will help. So, like I said, if it's a 1-star, let us know what you didn't like, so we can get better at it. If it is a 5-star, please let us know what you enjoyed, so we can continue to do that. So, we always appreciate the love and support that all of you give us, and we thank you for stopping and commenting on the Eagles video. I'm glad that the cutoff was a month and a half. So thank you so much for finally getting the hint that we don't care anymore. So, Cody, I'm going to pass it to you.
All right, guys. So just like what Drew said, go visit the description of the episode. All the links that he mentioned and the promo codes that we used for our partners to help support us, support them, are available. You can also visit us at drewcodesportstalk.com with all the links and all that good stuff there available. I'm hoping we will be back next week. I'm not going to hold my breath, though, so TBD. But I will any breaking news, I think, or anything crazy, we will definitely, share it on social media. Pretty active on all the major ones. So again, follow us there and subscribe to YouTube and the podcast, like Drew had mentioned. And I think that's it. So, the world is crazy, lots of stuff going on. So just remember, be kind to one another. Hopefully things turn around. We don't want to be doom and gloom about it because, there's been some tragic stuff happening in the world, but, keep all those in your thoughts and your prayers if you believe in that. And then, hopefully there's some change. Just don't let someone next to you know that you don't care about them, because that might be what helps them. So anyways, guys, be well. We'll talk to you guys later and have a good one.
Thank you.